Well, hello and welcome to this week's podcast episode. Now, very exciting that we are now producing the podcast as a video as well. So you may well be listening to me in your earbuds, or you could well be watching me on our new podcast weekly video series. So either way, a very warm welcome to you. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a rough and ready episode. It really is, because I am going to be unpacking with you the month of May inside my business. Now, it's going to be very raw, it's going to be very honest, it's going to be pretty vulnerable because, wow, that was not the month I expected. And there were some highs, there were some lows, but ultimately there were some incredible learning experiences. And I just really wanted to share with you guys how business doesn't always go to plan, for me included, and what to do about it. Because if you have had a month or you are having a moment right now where you're like, oh gosh, nothing's quite going as I expected, and that literally just happened to me too. And that's not happened for years. I have to say, a month where you just don't see it coming like that, it's not happened for a long time. I'm also super grateful for that month, although it did present me with some challenges. Oh my gosh, I feel so much more aligned and back on track, even though one way of looking at that month would have been not good. So let me dive into what's been happening, and the challenges that were presented and the lessons, because really that's what I wanted to share. Like, things don't always just keep growing and going nice and smoothly upwards. You're going to have highs and lows. Now, for inside NKC in the month of May, we have lots and lots of incredible things happening. Our clients are doing amazing work. Our social media clients, their content is performing. The results they're getting is fantastic. We took on some new team members, which was absolutely amazing. But there were some really odd little things that just kept happening. Glitches with emails, glitches with ads, some timing things not just kind of coming out as and when they were meant to, people being off sick, things just not quite aligning in the way they usually do. Because to be honest, everything in my business generally runs like clockwork. It's all pretty smooth. Yeah, sure, there's times where it's a bit more pressured, a bit more stressed, but things just generally kind of, roll on and happen. But oh no, not in the month of May. All these just little odd things just kept happening. And interestingly, I didn't really pay attention to each of those individual events. Only when I took an entire week off at the end of the month did I really see some interesting patterns occurring. So, the gifts that this month has given me, it's really forced me to have another good hard look at my money mindset. Now, I've worked on my money mindset for years. It's something I help other people with. But oh my gosh, I was shocked to find some, I don't know if they're new beliefs that snuck in, new behaviors. It's just some things had kind of come into my little bubble, into my little world, where actions I was taking, things I was thinking, really didn't align with the direction that I am headed in and that I'm leading my company in. So that was absolutely fascinating to find some mental money leaks, I shall call them. And taking the week off at the end of the month, I plan to take a week out of the business, partly to be around with my children on the holidays, but also to work on my forthcoming book. None of that happened. I literally did nothing but just be present with my kids, and it was absolutely lovely. And it really gave me such a great chance to reflect. So, money mindset, some things were going on there. Operating identity. Now, if you've been around me for a while, you know I speak a lot about mindset upgrades and changing your identity. I also talk about modeling behavior. If you are like, oh, I want to feel more confident, for example, one of the great tools and techniques, it's an NLP technique that I teach, is to model somebody else's confidence, borrow, show up as that person to get you through, I don't know, an event, a phone call, whatever it is. And I love upgrading my identity. And it's something I've been working really hard on all of this year. Now, the interesting thing that struck me is that whilst I was operating from an upgraded identity, I suddenly realized it wasn't actually the identity I wanted. So, yes, it was an upgrade. Yes, it modeled the next level of success. It suddenly hit me like a ton of bricks. I was making decisions, showing up, thinking like, being like, yes, a version of success, but not who I truly wanted to be. I'd suddenly slipped down the road of working more hours, kind of like a sort of hustle mentality, graft mentality. Now, don't get me wrong, I am more than happy to roll up my sleeves and work hard. I am a grafter through and through. Like you wouldn't have survived nearly 20 years inside the equine industry without that mentality. But I didn't set my business up so that I had to work all day, every day. Not at all. In fact, the very opposite. I set my business up to give me time freedom, location freedom, so that I could go and ride when I wanted to, so I could take time with my kids. I could just do what I pleased, quite frankly, whilst helping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and animals in the process. And I suddenly realized I'd been working a lot more hours. I was working early, I was working late. And how interesting to see that the results, shall we call them, they were worse for working more. And it's I was discussing this with my husband, and he was like, "Do you not remember the time?" And this is going back like 5, 6 years, that you got me to take a month off work so you could work more, and it was your worst month in business. And I was like, holy cow, yes. And I can remember that so clearly. I got my husband, my lovely husband, to take an entire month off so he could, our youngest daughter was 1, 2, like quite small. So he could just do everything and I would just work. And I would work as much as I physically could. And I was like, this is it. This is going to be the month I crack whatever goal it was I wanted to crack at that point. And it was the worst month of the year. It was the worst month for about probably like 2 years or so financially. And like just nothing worked. And how interesting that I have then gifted myself a similar month 5 or 6 years later. So you could be, and I share this story because it's very possible that you have been upgrading your identity, that you've been making moves from a different energy or a different place, being like a different person, but it doesn't quite align with who you truly are. And you're in a safe place because I've literally just done this. And I share that because how interesting that was. And the real gift that I had is, like I said, I plan to take this time away from the business. And inside our coaching programs, I love to give my clients what we call implementation weeks, weeks where there's no coaching calls, weeks where we're not there in the community space, checking in, doing this and this. I love these implementation weeks so they have time to breathe, so they have a chance to catch up. And it works so well inside the Expert Academy. And, and like a number of clients were like, wow, like I've literally just thought this week, I've literally just done mindset work. I've literally just taken stock of where I'm at and put a load of things in process. So like these implementation weeks work really, really well. This is something we've done for a number of years. So this week was for me to be out of the business was totally planned, but I was still planning to be working on my book. I was like really, really excited about it. I'm not going to say any more about my book for right now, but watch this space is all I'm going to say. Um, I suddenly looked in the mirror and I was like, who is this shell of a person? I looked so tired. And if you know my story, you'll know that in my 20s, 20, 21 years ago, 20 years ago, I went from riding 8 to 10 horses a day, teaching lessons all day, training, running 20 miles a week, like physically fit, super active, living my best life, to boom, couldn't walk up the stairs without sitting down halfway. And I had ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome, allergic encephalitis, and I was very unwell for, it took me 2 years to get better. So I wasn't well for a fair time. And it's something that I've often spoken about, is that fear of being sick again, being unwell again has really, it's held me back at times, and probably for a good reason. But I suddenly looked in the mirror, um, well, it's a week, 10 days ago, and I was like, oh my words, I can see where this could end up. And I just looked so tired. And I realized I'd lost like my creativity. I just felt so burnt out. And as somebody who doesn't feel stressed on a day-to-day basis, I am so excited to show up and help people in the community, help the industry, help my wonderful clients. Like, I am delighted. It doesn't feel like work. Like, it's such a joy, it's such a pleasure. But somewhere, something was not in alignment, because I suddenly felt exhausted. And I I would have always said I was like really careful at managing my energy and preventing burnout, something that I help people with. But it seems I wasn't following my own advice in some level. And I've made my priority for that 10 days that I was totally out of the business, sleep. Not that I wanted to be asleep all day, but I was just like, I'm just going to prioritize one thing, and that is getting decent sleep. And I've really changed up my routine as a result, and it's really interesting actually. I feel much better. There's still some stuff going on in the background, which needs a little bit more attention to just fully resolve my energy back to its super high state that it's normally at. But there's it's amazing how somebody who has mindset dialed in, who has a clear strategy, can slip, and how I had to dip to realize I was slipping. So that is a very honest, raw reflections on what's been truly happening inside my business for the month of May, and my lessons and learnings. And I share this for so many reasons, but one of the reasons is I know so often all we see is other people's edited highlights. We just see the success reel all the time on social media. And love, that can be super inspiring, and it can also make you feel like absolute crap. So in my process, in my journey that you are part of, in building a bigger business, having a much bigger impact, and helping hundreds of thousands of amazing practitioners and animals along the way, I really wanted to share with you the highs and the lows. So that's all from me for this week. I hope you have really enjoyed this episode. Please do subscribe. If you're watching the video on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you are listening to the podcast, follow along. It means that more great practitioners will find our podcast, find our content. It means that we can help more people inside the amazing animal health industry. So have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you on next week's episode. Bye for now.